Sailors in the United States Navy have a unique relationship with the ocean, traveling around the globe year-round. Navy sailors experience the power and beauty of the sea every day and have a great respect for the marine environment and the marine species that live there and view it as a home worth protecting. As part of its mission and role as an environmental steward, the Navy is committed to understanding and protecting the marine environment, while still achieving its mission to maintain, train, and equip sailors capable of winning wars, deterring aggression, and maintaining freedom of the seas. The effect of underwater sound on marine species is complex, and science is still emerging after more than a decade of research. As an example, Navy monitoring of marine mammals around Hawaii during training has produced solid scientific results and important lessons in monitoring methods. The Navy uses the data gathered during monitoring to inform analysis on the potential environmental impacts of its activities, as well as to develop science-based mitigation measures to reduce impacts on marine species. Passive acoustic monitoring in Hawaii began in 2002 with archiving recordings, resulting in a decade-long data set that is undergoing analysis. In 2009, the Navy began a long-term behavioral response study in Hawaii, off Kauai and Ni'ihau during submarine command course training. This study uses a variety of field methods to investigate movements of animals relative to ships and sonar.
We started the Marine Species Monitoring Program in 2007 when we began to get biological opinions under the Endangered Species Act that required us to do monitoring. We work very closely with the Office of Naval Research and the Living Marine Resources programs to really try to integrate the different programs because we fund different kinds of scientific research.
The Navy complies with federal environmental laws and regulations that apply to marine mammals and other marine protected species, including the Endangered Species Act and the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The Marine Species Monitoring Program is instrumental in complying with these regulations across geographic regions where the Navy trains and tests. The marine mammal monitoring in Hawaii uses sophisticated underwater acoustic sensors and newly developed technologies and methods, as well as more established field methods such as tagging, passive acoustic monitoring, and visual surveys to be able to understand marine species occurrence in areas where the Navy trains and tests, and to observe the responses of marine species when exposed to those activities. The Navy works with independent scientists using advanced tagging methods such as satellite tags and dive behavior tags to observe and track marine species. Tagging animals has provided a deeper scientific understanding of marine mammal and sea turtle movements and dive behavior.
That's one of our goals, is both to understand the populations that are off Kauai and Ni'ihau, and then another primary goal is to use the information from the tags to try to understand how they're reacting to Navy sonar. So during a training exercise, if we have tags on animals, the Navy is able to get information on where and when sonar is used. We know where the animals are. We can work with the Navy scientists to basically come up with estimated sound exposure at the tagged animals, and then look at whether or not the tagged animals, stay in the area, leave the area, how they're potentially reacting in terms of large-scale movements.
In addition to tagging, the Navy collects data using newer technologies, including unmanned underwater vehicles for research and monitoring purposes, to understand large-scale movements off Hawaii.
The REMA 600, it autonomously operates. You can tell it where to go, you can drive it. And the 600 in the name means that it can go down to a depth of 600 meters. The Navy funded this study so that we could look at platforms and sensors that could be used off-range. So we'd like to take this tool and go monitor populations and animals that sometimes are in areas that can't be monitored very easily.
Other advanced technologies being used for marine mammal research and monitoring include instrumented hydrophone ranges installed on the sea floor. The hydrophones were installed for use during training and testing, but have been used since 2002 for passive acoustic monitoring of marine mammals. The hydrophone ranges provide a high-tech level of data collection and monitoring.
We use the same hydrophones that the Navy uses for their training to conduct our marine mammal research. This research is conducted under the Navy Marine Mammal Monitoring Program with the intent of understanding what animals are present in the area, how they use the area, and if they are impacted by any of the Navy's activities.
The Navy hydrophone ranges allow researchers to record marine mammal calls and Navy sound sources to gain a better understanding of the potential behavior effects of Navy sonar on marine mammals. This unprecedented capability provides long-term data for analysis that would otherwise be nearly impossible to collect without the use of these hydrophones.
We have a much better capability for automatically processing information and reviewing it to understand exactly what species are using the range in terms of the ones that we can automatically detect with our passive acoustic processing. And it's opening up new horizons based on things like animal movement patterns or kinematics to let us understand much better how they utilize the range and different behavioral states they may be in when they're utilizing the range. And that in turn lets us look at data during Navy training and see how it might impact those behavioral states.
So we've been using these technologies to study their reaction to sonar by recording and monitoring their sounds before, during, and after sonar operations.
Additionally, trained Navy marine mammal observers aboard ships collect data and work alongside sailors to look for marine mammals and sea turtles during training events.
The Navy is required to implement certain mitigation measures to reduce potential harm to marine mammals. What you see as time and time goes on is that the word's getting out, and you see these crews are much more aware of what's going on in terms of conservation, protection, mitigation, and what we're doing to try to prevent harm to marine mammals.
And I also love to go on the ships because it allows me a different perspective when I'm writing environmental documents and we're assessing the different activities that they're doing. To have a first-hand view, I think is really, really important.
The Navy previously conducted visual surveys from airplanes to observe and detect marine species before, during, and after certain military readiness activities in Hawaii. These survey methods provided a different observation perspective due to their aerial vantage point. In many cases, the survey airplane was flying right above the ships using active sonar. In more than 10 years of conducting aerial surveys, the researchers did not detect any animals that had stranded or were under duress due to naval activities.
For the Navy, the main concern has been to have monitoring going on during Navy training events. Our job is to fly around Navy destroyers during those training events and determine, first, to detect whether marine mammals are in the vicinity of those ships, and secondly, once detected, to figure out if there's any changes in behavior.
While aerial surveys are no longer occurring, the archived data sets, in combination with the data collected from ships and the instrumented ranges, are being used to analyze species locations, movements, density, and behavior relative to training activities. Researchers, contractors, and Navy personnel, including the Space and Naval Warfare Systems Center Pacific, or SPAWAR, work together to understand the data collected from the field monitoring techniques during the Submarine Command Course training in Hawaii. Through these partnerships and collaboration, the body of scientific knowledge and understanding of marine species has grown significantly in the past decade.
The National Marine Mammal Foundation, we have multiple personnel that support the Navy's marine mammal monitoring efforts. We work closely with people at SPAWAR Systems Center, supporting them. We also work collaboratively with researchers from the University of St. Andrews and also Oregon State University. So we're involved with a lot of different smaller research projects with collaborative efforts that directly feed into and support the monitoring efforts for the Pacific Fleet.
By extending these collaborations, what it allows us to do is bring together these disparate technologies that are all focused really on answering the same question. Because the answer you get from any one technology is sort of an incomplete answer, but when you put them together, you can form a more rich picture and get a better idea overall as to the answers to some of these problems.
The Navy shares marine species data and monitoring reports with scientists, regulatory agencies, and the public. The Marine Species Monitoring Program website serves as an online public portal for information on the program and provides access to peer-reviewed publications, reports, documentation, data, and updates on current monitoring projects. The long-term monitoring of marine species in Hawaii will help the Navy to meet the objectives of the Marine Species Monitoring Program. Data collected and analyzed for more than 10 years provides several indicators that military readiness activities are unlikely to have long-term consequences on marine mammal populations, although there are some observed short-term behavioral responses of some species. Indicators that current protective measures are successful include increases in the number of some species of marine mammals present in areas where training and testing occur, the continued presence of species and long-term residence by individual animals in high-use areas, including species thought to be sensitive to sound, and a lack of observable negative effects on marine mammal stocks or populations.
The goal of the scientific studies, in most cases, feeds into looking at the impacts on marine species. So anything that we find out about movements of those animals, habitat use, all those sorts of things will feed into the scientific analysis and building the scientific pool of data. The Navy is the second largest funder of marine mammal research in the United States, and that's important.
Balancing national defense requirements and environmental stewardship responsibilities is an important goal for the Navy. As testament to its commitment to the protection of marine species, the Navy continues to be a leading contributor to the advancement of technology and scientific knowledge related to marine species protection and the effects of underwater sound and other human impacts on the environment.